So you may have noticed that I tend to use my bread machine a lot. By the way, that was 1 cup of water plus 2 tablespoons. And now I just added in my grass-fed butter, 1 tablespoon of that. And I'm about to add 1 teaspoon of salt. Anyway, I was saying, I use my bread machine a lot when I'm making homemade bread because for some reason, bread does not seem to want to rise for me. I have no idea why that is. Most people don't have any trouble with it at all, but for me, it never rises. So I use my bread machine and it turns out perfectly every time. And this is raw honey that I'm using from a local farmer, very good friend of ours. Every last bit of that in there. I love it. So another reason why I use my bread machine all the time is because I am ridiculously busy. I'd love to stay home and experiment with recipes and making and baking breads all the time, but that's just not reality for me. So here I'm adding 2 tablespoons of non-fat dry milk. This is because I'm using a 100% stone ground wheat, and I wanted to have a nice soft texture, and the non-fat dry milk helps out a lot. So what I'm adding now is a tablespoon of vital wheat gluten. This helps it rise. So again, I'm super busy and I really don't have time to do a whole lot of baking, especially baking my own breads and such. But this is just how fast and easy it is to make your own bread from scratch if you have a bread machine. This is truly one of the best health investments I have made. This has proven to be one useful tool. I use it all the time. And in goes my 2.5 cups of Bob's Red Mill stone ground whole wheat flour. I like making my own bread because I know exactly what's going in it. Like this 1.5 teaspoon of bread machine yeast, and no artificial ingredients and no preservatives. I know exactly what sweetener I'm using. I'm using the best quality flour. I'm using grass-fed butter and organic apples. This is 1 Jonathan apple and I diced it up really, really small. You could use applesauce for this recipe if you don't want any kind of texture in your bread at all, but I like the sweetness this adds, and I kind of like the texture of this. And let's not forget the cinnamon. I'm gonna just eyeball this. I'm gonna use about a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon and a half. And this is just 1 little box of raisins. I'm adding it for the sweetness here. I actually like raisins. I like the texture, but they are totally optional. I'm pouring them in my hand first as opposed to just dumping them right in because they kind of stick together and I want to make sure they're not all in a clump whenever I bake the bread. Cranberries are also pretty good in this recipe, but usually with dried cranberries, there's added sugars. With raisins, usually there isn't. And now I just push a few buttons and I can do anything else I want for the next 4 hours and 10 minutes. And here it is. It's absolutely perfect. I'm going to make French toast with this. I'm going to toast it and make a turkey melt. I'm going to make croutons with this stuffing, and I'm just going to enjoy it plain.